Okay, this should be my final wrap up, hopefully. Um, this video I will call the virtue of Stefbots teleology, or the irony of the teleology of Stefbots philosophy. And it is this. First of all, to give you my ethos, my background, I haven't just sold on eBay and bought on eBay. Yes, I've done that, but I used to work at eBay. I've cashed out their stock options. I've met Meg Whitman. I've worked at the building here in Salt Lake City, one of the main hubs. There's another one in Vancouver that came after that. There's another one in Germany. And I imagine there's a few more scattered around the world, but I was at one of the hubs. So part of their interaction was very interesting. So I thought the assumptions that Qtron Man was making, saying, well, your argument's very assumptive. I thought, okay, how is it assumptive? And I realized on eBay, when you buy and sell something, there's what's called a feedback forum. And it is this feedback forum where one identity, one seller and one buyer are able to give each other feedback, and they're actually able to write comments under these feedbacks. And so under Stefbot's notion of a universally preferable behavior, it is where everybody is at one point engaged in the market and everybody is aware of everybody else's feedback. It's at a point where everyone's interaction is accessible and known to everyone else. Now, he's against corporations because in this feedback forum, if this particular seller starts to do bad, right, and he drops out underneath the radar and comes back into eBay from another identity, then he's able to trade again as if he hasn't done any wrongdoing, even though his feedback is bad. But in the future, if everybody is aware, then they will also know that this is exactly what this individual has done. So what Stefbot is promoting or proposing is that a corporation, because if this individual drops out, this individual may be able to rise again under the blanket of a corporation. So if we remove the corporation, then the individual trying to change their identity will be known as somebody that has performed badly, has had bad feedback, dropped out, come back in another identity. But it's kind of like the government would want to know if you went to court to change your name. And so they'll want to know what all of your aliases are so that they'll still be able to track your credit, your character, what you're doing. All they're recognizing for you is that you've changed your name. So he's saying once this is all accessible, and once you're not able to cover yourself up at all, and that it's all transparent, then you will be able to know whether or not you want to interact with this particular individual or whether or not you'd like to work with somebody with better feedback and somebody that has very good credit, so to speak, with their trade interaction. Point is, with this, there's a couple things to note. If this person falls beneath the radar, right, and they have a bad feedback, and they're out for years because no one wants to trade for them, eventually, in the future, kind of like listening to them talk about, well, Thomas Jefferson was voted then, do you think he would be able to be elected now? There's a synchronic nature, meaning it's a static condition that's happening now and concurrently, but diachronics, meaning the difference within time, or the z-axis, changes. And so at one point, somebody may forgive this person's bad behavior and actually start to exchange with them again. This might function as a something similar to forgiveness in a Christian sort of dialogue. Or they might just overlook it, or they might think that the person has gained a momentum of bad feedback, not because of their own behavior, but because of people's tendency to follow what other people do by giving them bad behavior. The whole thing about this static nature of interaction is that the monarch, the police of the way these auctions are performed is still done by eBay. So Stefbots' argument is that at one point there must be a monopoly, not like Overstock.com, not like any of the other Bidco.com or any of the other sites where you can go under different rules, different timing, and different options, and different types of feedback, and different rules. There must be a singular monarch, a monopoly on the policing. And once we've acquired this complete singular monopoly, this complete singular dictatorship, only then will we have this universally preferable behavior. So the irony is that in order to achieve this complete freedom, we must give ourselves over entirely to a monarch system, which defines the policing, defines the structure of the communication. So once again, I've got to wait and ramble for the next 4 minutes because all of these uploads, YouTube has been cutting me off. And they've been cutting me off even though I've been rambling for 10 minutes. It cuts me off at about 6.5 minutes. So, what can I talk about? I thought it was very interesting. I'm actually trying to engage, but I'm doing it with a violence because we have policies which define policing of a policy. We have standardization. We have the break from standard, which is a violation of standard, hence a violence. We have Foucault talking about power structures within the language, not just within the language, but then within the economy. And we have Wittgenstein talking about the medium of grammar. These things seem to be overlooked, and meanwhile these guys are giving each other a lot of puffery and a lot of, yeah, go, 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 the other one. It's been good talking to you, which is just civil face. It's not about substance at this point. And did you see that plug that, once again, he made for his books at the end? Like, hey, just make certain you go gather more of my information so you could adhere more to what it is I'm saying and try to align yourself with it because it is grand and it is beautiful and it's a perfect secular alternative to the religious notions, which it really isn't. I mean, the religious notions do just fine by themselves. Totally. They totally do fine by themselves. It's just that it's all the profit head that seems to be at issue here, but the underlying philosophical and civil themes seem to not be too dissimilar to what it is that these guys are driving at. Anyway, once again, vote on the 4th. Happy Halloween. And read your Foucault and read your deconstructionists and read your Wittgenstein and make certain you vote, and you vote for the person that you agree most with their policies, and don't confuse socialism with democracy, and don't confuse communism with socialism, and don't distort neocons with fascists. You know, I mean, hey man, the ball keeps rolling. Anyway, does this look like I've been eating ass for hours? I've been watching their video, so I guess I'm kind of eating ass. Anyway, how do you like my necktie, people? Pretty dandy, eh? Pretty dandy. Had a good time. Took my niece out. Did some trick-or-treating. Took a lot of photos. And then I decided to drink a little bit and come back and make some videos. What else am I going to do when I get shitty? Other than to get violent and violently argumentative. Which means that somebody out there, because we are Klingon, and Klingons might want to trade with their Klingons. This whole idea of criminals running the government as opposed to criminals being at all level of humanity and virtuous people being at all level of humanity, and the non-relative nature that these guys are trying to prescribe to us. It's rather disgusting. So once again, folks, the irony is that Stefbot requires a singular dictator in order to have this entirety of freedom. That's just a fact. It's just a goddamn fact. And I'm just going to let this veg for 10 minutes. And it's been fun. Later, folks. Bye. Feel free to comment. Buy my shit.